Our next session is all about the impact of brevity in verse. Haiku, or the pleasure verse, invites readers to reflect on life, nature, and human bonds. We are pleased to have some of the contributors and editors of late Blooming Cherries, a compilation of haiku poetry from India. We welcome Kynpham Nongkynrih and Rimi Nath with Anju Kishore, Ramesh, Pravat Kumar Padhy, and Teji Sethi. Welcome all of you. Thank you so much.
This is Rimi, and I welcome you all to this session on haiku poetry called Late Blooming Cherries. Our book, Late Blooming Cherries, Haiku Poetry from India, has recently been published by HarperCollins India, listed as one of the most anticipated books of the year by Vogue, Open Magazine, and the Financial Express, among others. The book contains contributions from some of the most prominent haiku artists from India. We are here to celebrate the book and celebrate haiku poetry. I have with me the co-editor of the book, Kynpham Nongkynrih, who is a bilingual poet, who is also a novelist, translator, playwright, and many other things. We also have some of the most well-known haiku poets from India with us. We have Ramesh, Kumar, Padhy, Teji, Sethi, and Anju Kishore with us. We will listen to haiku poetry from all the poets present here, and the poets will also read haiku by other poets included in Late Blooming Cherries. But first, I'd like to invite Kynpham Nongkynrih to talk about the book, our book, Late Blooming Cherries, followed by Ramesh, who will talk about the haiku. Over to Kynpham Nongkynrih.
Thank you so much, Rimi. I'd like to do it standing, if you don't mind. Thank you so much, Rimi. I don't have much time since it is a haiku session. I have only a few minutes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So, Rimi has said some very nice things about the book. I just want to announce it officially that this is Late Blooming Cherries, Haiku Poetry from India, published by HarperCollins. I'm repeating, obviously. And I would like to say very proudly that this is the first anthology of haiku poetry in English from India. Now let me explain that. In case there is someone who would like to challenge me, let me just explain that. The first bilingual haiku anthology, Hindi-English from India, is of course Dr. Shashi Anjali Jodhar's 72-page Indian haiku, a bilingual anthology of haiku, published in 2008. But it is not an exclusively English language haiku anthology. Ramesh et al. Also edited Nath, an anthology of contemporary world haiku, published in 2016. But this, as the name suggests, is not exclusively Indian. There have also been one or two other publications featuring haiku, but none exclusively. So that makes this book, Late Blooming Cherries, the first ever anthology of haiku poetry in English from India, and especially to be published by a major publisher like HarperCollins. Now, Rimi, my co-editor, we are colleagues at the Northeastern Hill University. used to say that this is a mystical book. Why? Because she and I are the only poets in the Department of English who write haiku poetry. So it is natural for us to talk haiku poems and to talk haiku publications whenever we meet. And one day I brought to the department a book called Another Country, Haiku Poetry from Wales. It was the first haiku poetry anthology from Wales, edited by Nigel Jenkins and two of his friends. And Rimi asked me, she said, do we have anything like this in India? I said, actually, no. I don't believe that we have anything like this in India. So then and there, we were inspired. We were inspired by an idea that seemed to hit us like a thunderbolt, and that galvanized us into action. And we went to my room. We opened a file on the computer, and then we said, let's do it. Right now, let's start on an anthology of haiku poetry from India. But what are we going to call it? We have opened the file in the computer. What are we going to call it? There's a poem called Late Blooming Cherries from the book Time's Batter, Haiku and Senryu, published by HarperCollins. And the poem says, late blooming cherries by the highway, how else can I describe my haiku? Now this poem is related to the poet's late blooming haiku, the fact that haiku had come late to him. And it also relates to a species of cherry tree, popularly known as late bloomer, which blossoms in Shillong. Shillong is very famous for its cherry trees. Blossoms in Shillong in early December. Unlike Japan, cherry trees blossom in autumn, late autumn, or even early December, because the climate is much warmer than Japan. So we also decided to call our anthology Late Blooming Cherries. And why? Because we feel that it is long overdue in its coming. So we had the title Late Blooming Cherries. And then we made a list. We decided to make a list of the most prominent haiku writers from the country. But how to do that? Both of us have been published by some of the most prominent international haiku journals. So we did that. We surfed the websites of these prominent international haiku journals, and we found many names from India published there. And we decided that we were going to select only those who had been published in these journals. We knew a few people, but we didn't know the others, and that's why we were so thankful to people like Ramesh, to Gitanjali Rajan, Madhuri Pillai and others who helped us with the addresses, the email IDs, the phone numbers, and so on. And ultimately, we were able to compile a list of 57 of the most prominent haiku writers in India. And we do believe that this book is comprehensive and representative. You may ask me, why do you think it is comprehensive and representative when there are only 57 poets being included here? The sad fact is that unlike mainstream poetry, haiku poetry is yet to flourish in the same way in India. If this book had been a collection of mainstream poetry, the names would have run into hundreds, if not thousands. I know because G. Thiel's, the Penguin Book of Poetry, run to hundreds of names. So 57 of the most prominent haiku writers in India are here, and you will find haiku poems numbering between 5 to 20. We asked the contributors to submit 20, and depending on our judgment, which may be subjective, we published either 5 or 9 or 11 or 15 or 20. And so, having said that this is a comprehensive and representative anthology, I would also like to enthuse you by saying that you will find in this book, each poem shimmers with the light of a visionary moment. We were delighted when we put this anthology together, and we felt that we had not created an anthology, but had strung together a pearl and diamond necklace. And so we offer this treasurable necklace to you to wear. Just one advice, if you buy this book and you read the poems, you'll have to quote the words of Nigel Jenkins of the anthology from Wales. If you read these poems, please chew slowly. If you want to release the full flavor of the feast in late blooming cherries. Otherwise, this might very well happen. Some years ago, David Cobb won the UK haiku poetry writing competition. He was interviewed by the BBC presenter, and later, at the end of the interview, he was asked to read out his winning haiku. David Cobb read, and the BBC presenter said, "Is that all?" So that is why my advice to you is chew slowly. Thank you.
Thank you, Kynpham. Now I'd like to request Kala Ramesh to talk about the haiku.
That was a lovely talk. Thank you. A deep namaskaram to everybody here. A Himalayan-sized thank you to the Bengaluru Poetry Festival team and to Kynpham and to Rimi for giving me this opportunity to talk about haiku, something that I love doing. Once upon a time, there was a wise Zen master, Nanan. People from far and near would seek his counsel and ask him for his advice. Many would come and ask him to teach them, and he enlightened them with the teachings of Zen. He never turned anybody down. One day, Nanan received a university professor who came to inquire about Zen. The tone of this important man's voice sounded like he was used to having his way. The Zen master smiled and said that they should discuss the matter over a cup of tea. Nanan served him tea, and he poured his visitor's cup full and kept on pouring. The professor watched his cup overflow until he could no longer restrain himself. "Enough, master. You are spilling the tea all over. Can't you see the cup is full?" The master stopped pouring and smiled at his guest. You are like this cup of tea, so full that nothing more can be added. Come back to me when the cup is empty. Come back to me with an empty mind. Basho, the most revered of the haiku poets, said, when you write about the pine, become the pine. This line has been quoted and spoken about in all haiku meetings, but it's not easy to achieve this. Artists have done it convincingly though. For instance, a flutist blows into his instrument and by magic we hear a swara, a note. Look at this beauty. We sit together, the mountain and I. We sit together, the mountain and I, until only the mountain remains. We sit together, the mountain and I, until only the mountain remains. Lipo, written by Lipo. Alan Watts, English professor, writer and speaker, says, to my mind, haiku is beyond all doubt at once the simplest and the most sophisticated form of literature in the world. For the invariable mark of great artistry is its artlessness. And he also adds that in haiku, the author knows when to stop. It's just 8 words, 9 words, the poem is over. It seems to be a poem that just begun, but left unfinished. It's left to the reader to finish it, and this, we say, is a semicircle of a haiku. I have taught undergraduates for 10 years at the Symbiosis International University in Pune. I've taken workshops at the famed Film and Television Institute of India and the Architectural College in Pune. What I find most fascinating is how learning to appreciate and write haiku helps students understand the importance of being brief, concise, succinct, caring, and nurturing. Haiku teaches us to be observant and receive joy from simple things. I remember Susumu Takiguchi, founder of the World Haiku Club, who told me once that whenever life becomes difficult to handle, write a haiku for its healing powers. The beauty of haiku is in its constantly changing nature. Haruo Shirani, a noted haiku scholar, calls it transportability. American haiku is theirs completely, and so also with every country. India is waking up, which was once a sleeping giant. Our haiku, senryu, haibun, and tanka are rooted in Indianness. No more can Japan claim haiku to be theirs. Haiku should not be considered merely as description-based sketches from life or imagist-centric word paintings. The true spirit, the true haiku spirit is evident when the poems are activity-based, focused on becomingness, impermanence, and nature's creativity. Haiku looks simple, but nothing from Japan is simple. Whether it is karate, judo, ikebana, bonsai, or landscaping, it requires years and years of dedication, practice, and a love for simplicity. And we all know that being simple is the most difficult thing. I have you here. I leave you here to witness the beauty of this wordless poem. Thank you so much. We start off with Anju.
Illiruva ellarigu nanna namaskara. My name is Anju Kishore, and I begin with a reading of some of my haiku. Homeless boy. The lake wears a tattered sky. Homeless boy. The lake wears a tattered sky. Crescent moon. The sharp edge of longing. Crescent moon. The sharp edge of longing. Sinking sun. Somewhere the glow of cannon fire. Sinking sun. Somewhere the glow of cannon fire. Thunderstorm. The night keeps breaking. Thunderstorm. The night keeps breaking. Sip of a river. The taste of everything in its path. Sip of a river. The taste of everything in its path. I would like to read a haibun next. Haibun is an ancient Japanese form of poetic storytelling. It has 3 elements: the title, the prose, and the haiku. They form a triveni, as Ramesh often tells us, each linking to as well as shifting from each other for a wider understanding of the poem. In tune. The sea crashes in with a mighty roar and gathers my thoughts away. Drenched, they drift. For too long, you have not realized that to live is not only to do, but also to be. And to be, you must begin to love yourself and your own company, murmurs the sea. A few shells are washed on to the shore and then are swept back. I wonder what I can love of my chipped and useless self. The sea whispers as if reading my thoughts. You are of me, prismatic as all things mine. Another shell bobs on another wave. The sea pulls it back like a beloved of old and then runs it again to the shore. Dawn glow. A pelican folds into its reflection. Dawn glow. A pelican folds into its reflection. I hope you observe the interplay between the title, the prose, and the haiku. Moving on, it is my pleasure and honor to read the haiku written by a few other contributing poets of late Blooming Cherries. The first is by Gitanjali Rajan. Last night's storm. Mother sweeps away the broken nest. Last night's storm, mother sweeps away the broken nest. The next is by Subir Ningtuja. Train window. The landscape runs away from me. Train window. The landscape runs away from me. The next is by Suresh Babu. The sky rolling on a lotus leaf, dewdrop. the sky, rolling on a lotus leaf, dewdrop. The next two haiku have a touch of gentle humor that is so important in a haiku. The first is by Sanjukta Asopa. Flinging the raindrops far and wide, flip-flops. They say only subtle alliteration works in a haiku, but look at this one. Flinging the raindrops far and wide, flip-flops. Isn't that delightful? The next and the last one is by Vidya Venkatramani. Muddy puddle. The stretch of my legs an inch too short. Muddy puddle. The stretch of my legs an inch too short. Thank you all very much.
The ocean in a raindrop inside my womb, a heart. The ocean in a raindrop inside my womb, a heart. Withered field, slowly coming to terms with my aborted child. Withered field, slowly coming to terms with my aborted child. Spring rain, halfway through my meal. Spring rain, halfway through my meal, a scoop of loneliness. Spring rain, halfway through my meal, a scoop of loneliness. Lotus viewing, the flowering within. Lotus viewing, the flowering within. Gusty storm, the weathercock tilts. Gusty storm, the weathercock tilts its nose up. Dusty storm, the weathercock tilts its nose up. Unsolved puzzle. Unsolved puzzle. Why can't the hairs that drop be my grey ones? Unsolved puzzle. Why can't the grey hairs that drop be my grey ones? Meeting after years, she thinks I'm dying. Meeting after years, she thinks I'm dying to know her story. Here are a few of other poets' poems from this anthology. Sickle moon, somewhere a farmer kills himself. Sureshri Ullas Joshi, she comes from Pune, and delayed monsoons and unseasonal rains are the cause of many farmers' suicides in Maharashtra. Sickle moon, somewhere a farmer kills himself. Sureshri Ullas Joshi. Autumn breeze, another tiny cradle tied to the temple tree. Lakshmi Iyer. In an overpopulated country, we have couples praying for a child. Autumn breeze, another tiny cradle tied to the temple tree. Street cricket. Street cricket. The window we broke, still broken. Srinivasa Rao Sammangi. Street cricket, the window we broke, still broken. Srinivasa Rao Sambangi. Last train home. The fishmonger's basket filled. Last train home. The fishmonger's basket filled with potatoes. Neena Singh. Women's hostel. A langur rests an arm on a barbed wire. Women's hostel. A langur rests an arm on a barbed wire. Johannes Manjreka. He's no more with us, but his poetry lives. As the light changes, as a traffic light changes, I rush across pulling the wrong women. As the light changes, I rush across pulling the wrong woman. A. Tyagarajan. I love his humor and wit. I end my time with a haiku. Aditya, the sun god. I get away from the crowd onto the top of a hill. On the other side is a peacock valley where I see retired men sitting in groups chatting their idle hours away. A young couple pass by me. Suddenly, she stops midway, pulling her sleeves and saying, "Look, look, how beautiful." I see a copper red plate swiveling as it slips downward. Sheer vibrancy envelops the entire lake below in burning oranges and reds. A sacred moment, this twilight. A sacred moment, this twilight is perfect because it's neither day nor night, neither light nor darkness, and without a double. It has come to stay in my mind. String of jasmine, her plait in step with her hips. String of jasmine, her plait in step with her hips. Thank you.
So it's my turn. This is called the second coming. I'm a teacher, and my students used to ask me, "Sir, is it possible to write to write a haiku about love? Is it possible to write love poems in haiku form?" Actually, it's a very dicey thing, but it can be done, and you have to do something like this. This is from late Blooming Cherries. Sunset, watching you, watching. Sunset, watching you, watching. I mean, the beloved is more divine than the magical hour. But, and there are two or three other poets who also refer to love in their haiku in late Blooming Cherries. And one of them is Ramchandran. I'll read out his haiku. Starry night, I adore the twinkles in her eyes. This again, then I'll read some more by me and end with some by the others. This one says, first spring rain, the bus shelter only half finished. First spring rain, the bus shelter only half finished. The government is always, behind Chet. So you see, we can write a satire, but we can be satirical. We can write a satire on haiku without being too openly judgmental. I'm writing some of my light verses. Stupas of Sanchi. We are all familiar with the stupas of Sanchi, aren't we? Stupas of Sanchi. A monk under a tree, lost in a mobile phone. And this is rather grim, but this is unfortunately, the reality in some urban spaces. Cities cluttered drains, even unwanted children. Sorry, I'll read that again. Cities' cluttered drains, even unwanted infants are thrown in. Cities' cluttered drains, even unwanted infants are thrown in. Fiery pomegranate bursting with ripe seeds. Fiery pomegranate bursting with ripe seeds. Earth bursting with humans. Earth bursting with humans. So this is about how, you know, a haiku may not use simile, but it has to be a metaphor. And this is about something, you know, that I wrote this when I moved away from Shillong to the outskirts, and I came for the first time when I was waken up by bulbuls feeding at dawn. Never knew bulbuls feeding at dawn, noisy as Kasi funerals. Kasi funerals are very, I mean, you don't know whether it is a feast or a funeral, you know, when you get to one. So never knew bulbuls feeding at dawn, noisy as Kasi funerals. Region's backwardness explained by a road sign. There's something missing here, you know, there's a comma missing, so you can judge for yourself. Region's backwardness explained by a road sign. Slow men at work. So there's a comma missing. Instead of slow men at work, it becomes slow men at work, and it becomes a commentary on the region's backwardness. So you can do a lot of things, you know, with a haiku. And this is about, okay, this is another one. Women scanning fish on strings. I hope you're not one of them. We are very fond of doing this. Women scanning fish on strings. How can dead bodies be so appealing? How can dead bodies be so appealing? Market scene. Market scene. Vegetables on footpaths. Vegetables on footpaths. Shoes on glass cases. Drizzling in the sun. Drizzling in the sun. At the end of a rainbow. At the end of a rainbow. A filthy stream. It's getting stuck. Just a moment. I have a series of haiku. It's a haikai called Gestures. And I'm reading only two of them. It's called Gestures, based on people walking on the streets, holding their mobile phones and talking to themselves. So just two of them. A girl on the road, left hand on left ear, looking at me, says, "Shut up." Newly discovered contagion of modern age. Newly discovered contagion of modern age. Ear clutching itch. And this is by K. Ramesh, not by Kala Ramesh. There's another K. Ramesh in our anthology, late Blooming Cherries. Yeah. He's a male, K. Ramesh. So, did I say he's a... Okay, sorry. So this is by K. Ramesh. I find it very touching, you know. He says, a yellow leaf touching the green ones on its way down. A yellow leaf touching the green ones on its way down. This is by Gitanjali Rajan. Hearing aid, hearing aid. Grandma now complains about the squirrels. This is by Madhuri Pillai. Lost dog, lost dog. I leave my voice in every street. Lost dog. I leave my voice in every street. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. Namaskar and good morning to the distinguished friends. I am Pravat Padhy. I shall be reading my haiku featured in the anthology led Blooming Cherries. Kindly observe and correlate the images across the pause in the minimalistic points and enjoy the haiku spirit. Red carpet, the monks walk barefoot. Flowing river, the bereaved girl holds a palmful of water. Sunrise, the morning enters without a knock. Sunrise, the morning enters without a knock. This poem, the next poem, I wrote when I was on flight from Baroda to Chennai probably, on a boarding pass. Thick clouds, a gap takes me to the ocean. Thick clouds, a gap takes me to the ocean. Braided hair, the breeze shaping the waterfall. Braided hair, the breeze shaping the waterfall. Next one. Motherhood, how tenderly clouds hold the rain. Motherhood, how tenderly clouds hold the rain. The next one. Frozen pond, the missing sound of skipping stones. Frozen pond, the missing sound of skipping stones. I had selected some of my favorite haiku by other poets, and let us appreciate their candor poetic style, tonality, sensitivity, and juxtaposition of the images within the beauty of the brevity of haiku poetry. In the monastery, rising above the plain chant, a warbler's half note. In the monastery, rising above the plain chant, a warbler's half note by late Anjali Deodar. On a weighing scale, the lightness of joy, the heaviness of sorrow. On a weighing scale, the lightness of joy, the heaviness of sorrow by Ananya Dasgupta. Dawn over Dal Lake, emerging from the mist, the flower boat. Dawn over Dal Lake, emerging from the mist, the flower boat by Rohini Gupta. Temple visit ends on the wall, returning with prasad. Temple visit ends on the wall, returning with prasad by Muskan Ahuja. It has got very much Indian touch, Indianness. How many more clouds will pass before it rains? Miscarriage. How many more clouds will pass before it rains? Miscarriage by Bandana Parashar. Now I shall read one haibun written by me. The haibun, Leading the Way, is about interaction between the grandfather and granddaughter during a playful evening in Bangalore itself. It underlies the importance of girl-child and gender equality. I request you to observe the link and shift between the prose section and the verse section or the poetry section at the end. Early winter, I stroll with my granddaughter Misku. There is a charm in recounting the seasonal flowers with her. She asked about chirping birds, the moon, the twinkling stars. It is exciting to explain the science behind them in the form of story language for her own playful imagination. The flowers and their names I often narrate to keep her amused in the evening tender breeze. She caresses her hand over the tiny grass ringed with softened dew. There is a charm in rediscovering yourself to convince the first learner. Who knows, there could be a little Marie Curie or Edai Yonath residing in her. I recall Wordsworth's phrase, "The child is father of the man." It is toying with me, but I know the child is the mother of the woman. Garden umbrella, shadow changes its length with passing time. Garden umbrella, shadow changes its length with passing time. Hopefully you can correlate the prose section with the poetry, that haiku at the end. Thank you for listening.
I would read some of my haiku published in late Blooming Cherries. Candlelights, candlelights, dance of the shadows. Candlelights, dance of the shadows. Fish in a glass jug, fish in a glass jug. I dream of escape. Fish in a glass jug. I dream of escape. Solitude, solitude. A peony blooms alone. Solitude, a peony blooms alone. Birds in pair, birds in pair. Only people are capable of separating. Birds in pair, only people are capable of separating. The next haiku talks about the flood situation in Assam. Flooded river, the entire village rushes past. Flooded river, the entire village rushes past. Washing my face, last night's dream erased. Washing my face, last night's dream erased. Success, success, a lone tree standing. Success, a lone tree standing. This also has a hint of love in it. Red rose, unnoticed in a corner. Red rose, unnoticed in a corner. The next haiku is from the COVID days. Masked faces, talking eyes. Masked faces, talking eyes. The next one. Balloon in the sky, saviored from my past. Balloon in the sky, saviored from my past. The next one, this is the last haiku I'm reading, my own. It reflects on the writing process, which is to a large extent a lonely journey. Scribbling at my desk, a cooing dove, my only companion. Scribbling at my desk, a cooing dove, my only companion. I'm reading only 4 haiku by other poets included in late Blooming Cherries. The first is by Malika Chari. Foreign land, among unknown sounds, my mother tongue. Foreign land, among unknown sounds, my mother tongue. The next is by Salil Chaturvedi. Border sunset, soldiers watch the migrating birds. Border sunset, soldiers watch the migrating birds. The next by Minal Sarosh. Passing clouds, what to do, what not to do. The last one by Anita Verma. Letting go, what I learn from the dance of a maple leaf. Letting go, what I learn from the dance of a maple leaf. Thank you.
Namaskara. I think I'm told that we are running out of time. We have 5 minutes? Yeah. Okay. So I would like to read a bilingual haiku on the partition of the Indian subcontinent. I come from Hindi background, so I use a lot of Hindi words in my haiku and haibun and tanka. Fragments. Every day braiding my hair, she narrates tales of her hometown. My thick black hair wrapped around her long bony fingers, she takes me into the katras and lanes of Lahore. Her eyes lit up as she speaks of bazaars, her favorite jalebis and dahi bhallas. The kinds of salwars she wore and the matha patti that adorns her forehead on the wedding day. She gets lost in the echoes of the past, and a daily ritual ends in a sigh. Puttar, जिस लाहौर ने वेख्या वो जमिया ही नहीं. Weaver bird, picking up the strands of unwritten stories. So I'm going to play a weaver bird today. I write a lot of scenario. The scenario I've chosen to read from the anthology are 3-line stories. These tiny tales condensed into 6 to 10 words are visual nuggets that have a cinematic appeal. These are written by contemporary poets who are known for their signature styles in the haikai word. To start with, I'll read one of Arvinder Kaur's poem. Courtroom, how white the shirt of the rapist. Courtroom, how white the shirt of the rapist. For the young hearts here, by Neha R. Krishna, First date. First date, loose thread on his sweater takes all my attention. First date, loose thread on his sweater takes all my attention. The next one is by Shobhana Kumar. Abandoned shrine. Abandoned shrine, the gods as lost as us. Abandoned shrine, the gods as lost as us. Shloka Shankar. Autumn deepens. Autumn deepens, I hang another day on the nail. Autumn deepens, I hang another day, on the nail. Ravi Kiran. Long after the miscarriage. Long after the miscarriage, stretch marks. Long after the miscarriage, stretch marks. Now I would be reading some of my own, starting with some war poems. Gunshots. Gunshots. I know nothing of lullabies. Gunshots. I know nothing of lullabies. Crossing borders. Crossing borders, I carry the weight of a throbbing silence. Crossing borders, I carry the weight of a throbbing silence. Now reading 2 bilingual haiku I wrote during my cancer journey. Purnima. Purnima, the fullness of my breast wears a scar. Purnima, the fullness of my breast wears a scar. Amavasya. Amavasya, my scars eclipsed for a night. Amavasya, my scars eclipsed for a night. A turn at 50. A turn at 50, out of nowhere the battles I had left behind. A turn at 50, out of nowhere the battles I had left behind. A couple of on girl child. Ordering laddus. I'm a Punjabi and we celebrate the birth of a boy by gifting laddus. Ordering laddus, the halwai asks if it is a boy. Ordering laddus, the halwai asks if it is a boy. Passing on to my daughter broken stereotypes. Passing on to my daughter broken stereotypes. Menopausal blues. Menopausal blues, it is not red always. Menopausal blues, it is not red always. Here comes the last one on transience, as we say in haiku. As it goes with the wind, this cherry petal. As it goes with the wind, this cherry petal, so shall I. As it goes with the wind, this cherry petal, so shall I. Thanks a lot.